Maybe. Let's see. Let's see. And we're live. Okay, so I actually don't have anything planned for today. But maybe it makes sense to look at this one. Do you have anything I want to bring up? Before
Nothing specific to discuss. Only I think we need to all right, we'll just do it. Like, we have to have another round with the examples, I think. Because when I was I was recording on Monday for some doc folks. I was recording some explanation and I started looking at the examples for 3.0 and found some errors or inconsistencies or something that didn't make sense. So I'll open up a pull request, but I'm thinking if it maybe
if there's anything wrong, then you probably have to add something in the converter as well. But I can take a look at that.
Yeah, it was Monday, so I don't remember everything. Sometimes it just didn't make sense, like in case of the request reply.
Which one of the example?
Yeah, the ones that came out from the request reply. No, not actually, not all. It was Kraken.
Which
request
one?
The filter in reply. And WebSocket Gemini. But come on, it was 2 days ago and I completely don't remember what was it. What the heck?
Hello.
Ah, yeah. WebSocket Gemini was not migrated to 3.0. Or actually it was. Ah, okay. So the converter, it's using the old address as a name. That's why I was confused. Because I saw you see line 28? Now I see it. Now I was confused, like, hey, it was not migrated. It's still the name of the channel is blah, blah, blah. The address, but now I see. It's just probably, so that's the converter job, right?
Yep.
Okay, converter takes the old name because we didn't have a name field for the channels, right?
You can change how, like, the naming strategy, but I just left everything default. So yeah, it might make sense to go through some of them and change it a bit.
Yeah. Because they will be confusing. Like if I got confused, then it's gonna be confusing.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, but I'll handle that. It's so I have it on my list to open a pull request too. Then I'll go through the others as well to see the channel names there. I think we should change it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh shit! I have to pick up from my wife. I'm sorry.
No worries. I'm just gonna sit here by myself. Talk to myself. I love that. That shit is great.
I'm back.
Nice. So maybe a little bit of an update is in order. So, and when it comes to like what is missing for us to release V3. So I think let's take us from basically a top to bottom. So in the CLI, we have changed. So if it encounters any async API documents that are v3, it fails any command that hasn't been updated. So that means that if you try to use an async API v3 document with generator and the generator dependency have not been updated to support v3, it will correctly fail that command.
Wasn't it merged already?
Yeah, it
So-
was much.
Oh, okay. Because you don't have
Yeah.
it ticked.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm gonna do now.
Ah, okay. I was afraid that
Uh,
it's not merged.
Yeah, and it kind of depends on whether you want this issue to be like there uncompleted until all of these has been updated, or whether we just want to close it and say, okay, we have made precautionary changes. Is that a thing? Precautionary. Is that even a word?
Definitely a
have-
difficult one.
We have made some changes in order for the CLI to correctly handle v3, whether that's failing a command or whether that's making sure that it goes through. I would say that this is done. In my mind, it's done. And then when libraries are updated, it will update in the CLI and it will support it. But closing this does not mean that everything is supported. Like you can't use all the commands in v3. It just means that we handle v3 document, if that makes sense. Basically, I can tick off this box. That's all I want.
Um,
Can we say that?
Yeah, I mean, I know that eventually we want to support all the commands, but that's wishful thinking. So yeah, tick it.
Yeah. Studio, I have no idea. It is supported. Like
But it's minimum
Samir-
support.
yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't support much, but I think it can handle v3 documents, but maybe Fran has an update there. Welcome back.
Yeah, I have an update. I got my yogurt with apple. So yeah,
Perfect.
and I can handle it.
So I can tick this box. Perfect.
What do you mean if I have an update of what? Sorry.
So regarding v3 support in Studio and for and basically for this specific issue, can we say that it handles v3 as expected right now? Or is it still a blocker?
Sorry, I have my daughter trying to put the fingers in the plug. So
Oh, nice.
so yeah, no.
I was
I
about to
got
say,
distracted. I got distracted. Sorry. So
I have a dark rumor. Sorry.
there's nothing yet planned for version. No, sorry. Yeah. Damn it. I got confused with GUI. Yeah. So V3 support in Studio is like it's partially there. And I mean partially because you can already turn it on. There's a configuration feature on Studio. If you go to settings, you have to enable it, and it only validates the document. It doesn't show documentation or anything because the React component is not yet there, and there's no outline, there's no code generation or anything enabled. Just validation on the document on the code editor. We did this with the intention of unblocking documentation folks, so they could try out their own documents themselves. And so what's planned is that as we get the rest of the stuff that is needed, the React component and everything in place, then we'll get to settings and remove that option, right? So it's not needed anymore and it will be automatically there. But we need to migrate everything. Basically, we need to migrate the React component. We need to migrate the converter as well, because it auto converts when you paste it, right? Or when you land.
But it is supported, right? Or
It
it just
is-
haven't been updated in Studio.
It's a little bit supported. Yeah. A little bit.
It's a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. It's a little bit supported. You can only validate it, nothing else. You cannot.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
It's not functional. It's not yet supported. I will not say it's yet supported.
You cannot tick it basically.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You cannot take it.
So is Studio blocking the release for V3?
Yes.
In its current state, is it enough, or is there still things that's needed?
No, it's like React component. Without React component, it sucks. And in Studio, there's not much work to actually use React component.
So the answer is yes, it is blocking.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Moving on. Schema files, that's complete, right? As far as I remember, it's complete.
I haven't looked there for some time.
No, but all of the spec changes have been approved and reached RFC3, which means that it is supported in the spec JSON schema. So I would say that the only thing that's left here is basically release to production. So
but we didn't release, because before my holidays we had this convo that we can actually release spec JSON schema before the release. You remember?
right. Yeah. It's getting back.
It's getting back. You mean your memory is
Yeah.
getting back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are still in need of
It's now basically parser uses release candidate, right?
yeah. Yeah, we basically need to merge these two. Merge next major into master. That's the thing that's missing still, right? But in theory, it shouldn't happen before we release version 3 finally. Where I suggested we did release it earlier, but it doesn't seem like we want to do that yet. So for me, it's fine to do this on the day that we release everything else and just keep it as is. If that makes sense.
Wait, can you go back to the list of pull requests? Prepare next major spec for release. What is this one about?
It was me adding migration guide and
okay.
adding this about pre-release stuff, but I can change this to.
But I think we had agreement that we can do it. It was just we only had a discussion about the structure of the library.
Yeah, this one, right? Like yeah, what's exported, right? That's the only thing that we still was discussing.
No, that's how it looks now.
Yep.
Yeah, and we were discussing, like how it should, if we want to release 3.0 JSON schema before 3.0 release, then we were discussing that we should not add it directly, but as a separate key.
Yeah. But we are at a state now so close to release that I would say it doesn't matter about having this as a pre-release. I mean, this change should just be the final change. So free is added normally without any pre-release, without any extra stuff. It's just added normally. How we do it in all other releases.
So we do old school that we will on the release day we have to first release the schema and then parser.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so that's basically complete in my eyes. It's ready to be released. React components, I've updated it to use the newest parser. We still need to add request reply rendering. That's one of the major tasks. Ace has kind of taken over that task because he wanted to. So he is basically championing that change. And I gave him somewhat of a starting point because I was starting to support or to add support for it. So it probably shouldn't take that long to implement. But yeah, that's what's missing in the React components. And then I need to fix the playground, but more or less.
And I think this and replacing publish, subscribe, or pub sub with send receive, right? The text.
If you want to, yeah.
I mean, we should, right? Especially because now it's reversed. So
Yeah, sure.
I
Do you
mean,
want? Can you add it to the issue then? Because that isn't tracked anywhere. That specific one with changing the meaning of.
which issues you mean?
Depends on whether you want to add a new issue or whether you want to keep it in this one. Because there's nowhere that's stated that needs to change.
No, I added this like add support for every new V3 feature. But yeah.
But what does that imply?
No, my question is my point here is that we haven't get to this yet. What does entail? What does it entail? That's the thing. And I'm suspecting that request reply and replacing pub sub is not enough, most probably. That's my feeling.
What else?
I mean, out of my mind right now, not sure, but probably the security on servers is also changed. So I'm not sure if it will be changed on the documentation. Maybe not, but we need to look.
But it isn't really changed.
But even
It's
channel
just a
name,
structure.
channel name will change, right?
Channel names, yeah. So yeah, like that's why I like purposefully created this item there. Like, yeah, for every new V3 feature, maybe we should create a new, or maybe we should replace this with more detailed list of features. But yeah, like,
Are all those changes, are those required for us or blocking us from releasing V3?
yes.
Okay.
We want to release V3 correctly, right? Like what the output documentation is correct. So we don't want to be rendering something incorrectly, right?
But
maybe
it's
if something is missing, I don't think it's a problem or so much of a problem. But
is it like still operations in the as a main stuff? Because like now when you render docs, it's like all about operations, really.
Yeah, so operations is another thing. Like right now, we will have to iterate over operations because now you can have multiple operations for the same channel.
But that has changed.
Now, I mean, on V3 you can have that. Version 2 you could not have that. So that also needs to change as well.
But that has changed. That's what I'm saying. Like in React components, that has been changed. It is iterating over operations instead of channels.
It's iterating over channels and just picking publish and subscribe and then grouping them, and
it's only iterating over operations right now.
How? Like there's no operations object in V2.
No, there is. It's
what?
So with the new parser API, an operation, if you iterate over operations, is basically iterating over channels, because each channel is one operation and there's a one-to-one there. In V3, it's a one-to-many instead, but the rendering of it is the same, and that's why I changed it to iterate over operations.
So then maybe what we need to add there is probably details about like the allowed messages for an operation.
It's there. It's already there.
In case there is no channel, or is it possible? I don't know. No, channel could be null, address could be null, but yeah, channel has to be there. And the operation ID maybe. Well, it's there as well. Yeah,
it's still there.
But we just need to look at. Well, I don't know if we do it in this on the parser, but the operation ID now needs to be the key instead of the operation ID field. So
But from the UI,
It still is.
but from UI UX, how does it look like now when you
I think you see
when
the operation ID as a label, I think, if I recall correctly. So we probably would, I mean, we have to check basically. We have to.
No, not that one.
Just go to Studio. It's easier. Go to Studio. What you see in Studio is what you get there.
No, because that's not the up-to-date React components.
I know.
At least I don't think so.
Why not?
Are you sure?
no, how
I'm pretty sure it hasn't been updated.
What? Freak news. I didn't know.
I don't get any errors that some automated bumps are hanging.
I have no idea whether it actually has been bumped.
It's React 51 release candidate. But anyway, even if it's bumped, we're talking about 3.0, right? And there's no 3.0 rendering in Studio.
Oh,
Because what you're trying to show now is changes
current-
you did for 3.0 with
yeah.
in
The
React
current
7.
rendering of React components and how it renders v3 documents, but also how it renders v2 documents. And there's almost no difference. And that's on purpose. Because in my mind, in my head, the rendering is more or less the same.
Oh my God, you know, you quoted a song. In my mind, in my head. Sorry. Sorry.
on, man.
It's too young for that.
No, it's a new song. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Jonas, but I couldn't resist myself.
No worries.
The things we should do. Oh my God! Now I will always think about you, Jonas, when I will hear that song.
In KPI.
Hope it works.
Oh, Gigi D'Agostino.
Okay, I'm not showing anything because it doesn't seem to work. All right, so we have some stuff to do in React components. But I want to know what that is.
Isn't the release notes the best helper?
What do you mean?
To see what has to be changed, because there are two things in my opinion. Like, so what you did, it's fine. You did a support for 3.0 from the API perspective. You just changed methods to make sure that it works. But from UI UX perspective, that's a different thing. And I think that every single feature that we have in the release notes, probably it's Fran, or not sure if there's anyone else helping, is like with request reply from UI UX, you also have to figure out how to nicely show it. It's also with operations, like if we have now multiple operations per channel, should we just ignore it in the docs, or maybe that should be somehow visible, clear that you're looking into operation, but it's one of many on a given channel. You know what I mean?
But isn't that redesign questions?
Yeah, UI UX redesign, yeah, but it's
Not redesign, right? It's just like correcting the design. like making it correct to make version 3 look correct, even if it's with the same design.
Okay, so we have a lot of blockers in React components, basically. Is that the too long didn't read?
Sorry.
That we have a lot of blockers in React components, and the too long didn't read is like we have no idea when it's ready.
Yeah, we need to define it. We
Yeah.
need to go through this and define them, I would say.
All right.
For sure, not all the features will need it, like new traits, behavior. Yeah, from Doc's perspective, doesn't make.
But that's
no
not
difference.
changing, right? Because that is solved, that is handled on the parser.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it's not like that all the features from the release notes will have,
Yeah.
but some.
So who wanted to find that?
I'll take it, no worries.
Generator, jumping on to the next one then. Generator, we just agreed on an approach to updating it today. So most likely it will be updated one of the next couple of days. Which then means that we can finish the templates as well. The parser, that's basically complete. We still need to release it, of course, like the JSON schema repo. HTML template just needs to have its React components updated and updating to the newest API version when the generator has been updated, but that's basically it. Markdown template has been upgraded to the newest JavaScript API, but it has to be updated again when we update the generator. But otherwise, there shouldn't be anything specifically needed to complete this. So that's more or less done as well. Server API, I have no idea. If you already have somewhat updated the studio, then I'm not sure what is needed here.
To generate code, to download the generated code.
So it's generator template related.
Yeah, but Studio is calling the server API, I think. So if that's the case, then from Studio, you will not be able to download the code because server API is not updated.
And is that required for Spec 3 release? Or blocker?
I think we talked about it or wrote about it somewhere in the past, and we said it's not necessarily a blocker for
I would
release.
say not all the templates. I would say like, yes, let's update it, but not all the templates. Not necessarily supporting all the templates. I will just support a few of them. Maybe, I mean, HTML template, Markdown, and I don't know, some Java templates, which are probably the most used.
Whatever is not on the list here is not a blocker. So if you want something else, this needs to be updated.
Like Java template, then we need to update Java template.
Yeah, that's
but it also needs to be added to this list. Otherwise, I have no overview on what's still a blocker.
That's what I was trying to do with the Shapeit dashboard. So me. So look at this. Let me share this. This one, if you can open it, was precisely to start that discussion, like docs and code generation, right? In this case, so you have what we're seeing here in the screen right now is documentation generation, and that is my initial attempt at defining the minimal support to have it, to enable this, to enable to release version 3 basically. And if you check on the left, you have add minimal support for V3 code generation. I'm not sure if I added. Yes, so not all templates are there. I just added a bunch of them there that I thought will be interesting. Just some Java templates, Node.js, and one from Python because I don't know, but just to support another language maybe. We can discuss this. We can get rid of some of them. We can add another one. Like what I'm trying to do with this 2 cycles here is define the list of things that are needed for version 3. So that visibility that you're talking about, that is what I'm trying to solve here.
But like it's we have this like even though it looks nice in shape up, we have this like the whole idea of having it in the issue, have the calls here and agree the scope is to have it like in a controlled environment, that it goes through release coordinator, it goes into the list of items, checking, etc.
Yeah.
Shape it up is nice, but then now all suddenly you added all these templates, and I remember that in the past we said that code generators are not considered blockers for 3.0.
Oh, what I'm saying is that this was just my intention, like to start this conversation to define exactly what's going to be needed for version 3. I'm happy to, like I'm saying, it's okay to, yeah, I know that you use this, Jonas, but what I said in the past in the previous meeting was like, it was a nightmare for me to navigate this, because if you enter in generator, for instance, there was a bunch of other pending issues. If you enter in server API, sorry, generator, that's not the case, the server API, you have all these templates, which are dependencies. So to me, it was like, yeah, having server API is a requirement, but is it a requirement to have all of them, all of these templates here? That is what was not clear to me. I can have server API, but just with one template maybe, or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, not all of them. So that's what I'm trying, that's my attempt here. Let's define, that's cool, these issues are cool to define all the dependencies of everything, the whole graph. Now, we don't need to fulfill the whole graph to release version 3. We don't need to support version 3 on everything just to release it, right? So that's why I created this other approach. Is like, okay, I'm gonna take these issues that you created and just render the ones that are, in my opinion, and I say my opinion because I started it, but in our opinion, let's define what's going to be needed, right? Exactly what's going to be needed, what issues are going to be needed. And it's not in Shapeit. You can go to the corresponding issue because there's nothing in Shapeit. Shapeit is just a front end. Everything is on GitHub. So just go to the corresponding GitHub issue and update the list, right?
Okay, so what I'm understanding is that even though that I'm linking these issues here, each of these contain too many things in order to be concrete and in terms of what needs to be updated in order to, for example, click this box, basically. So just linking all of these issues doesn't make much sense, because as we can also see now, CLI is basically, it's not a blocker anymore, but the issue is still not complete because it still needs a lot of changes to support V3 fully. That makes sense. But I still think that I'm gonna need to change this list here in order to be more concrete in what's needed. And then we keep everything that's related to when we are done with V3 in this issue. So any discussions about what's the bare minimal for tooling to support in order for us to release V3, in my mind, should happen in one issue alone, and what's we see as a blocker.
But the only thing you need to do is go to CLI, for example,
and
update description and make it clear which issues are really blockers for 3.0 and which not. And
that could also,
because it's ticked, then basically none of this except of parser, it's not ticked, I guess.
yeah. that wasn't the intention of the issues, but that could be another way of doing it. Yeah. So because I created these to be so people can see exactly when v3 is fully supported in, for example, CLI. So all of the commands support v3 and not just the bare minimum of what's needed in order to and that's what Fran also complains about here, is we are linking to this without us having to click this box before all of these scopes have been completed. Nowhere does it say exactly what's the bare minimum needed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do we want those things in these issues, or do we want me to change this here to include something else? Because to me, it's more spec related than it is tooling related in some sense. Because it's only relevant for when do we agree that we can release v3.
What if you just so in this issue here, you just add a note there, saying that for instance, I don't know if that's the note you have in the bottom, but I don't think so. Like for instance, for server API, you have all these templates, right? But all the templates are not the bare minimum, right? So why don't we specify exactly here that, for instance, when you say server API, it's migrating server API with this specific templates, right? And we list the templates here as well. You list in some of them here, for instance, HTML and Markdown, but I don't see code generators. So
that's on purpose.
That's on purpose. Okay, so my point here now is that now that's up for discussion, of course. Like, but if we want people to try out version 3 beyond documentation, we need something that can run, some code generator to work, at least one, right?
I disagree.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a documentation generator. And yeah, I'm sorry, but if I am from the other side, and I see, oh, cool, async KPI is releasing version 3, and all I see is that, oh, cool, now you can write the same spec in a different way, and you get documentation, or not the same spec, but now I can write, I have more features. So my documentation now is more complete because I can see request reply, for instance, in my documentation. That's not gonna be so sexy for me, if in my opinion. And it's even worse, long-term, not long-term, but it might create the feeling on the user side that our focus or our main focus is to create a specification, to create documentation, to document your APIs. And I think we should go beyond documentation, and we should be like actively showing the users that, hey, so it's in KPI, you can do documentation, but documentation is just one of the things that you could do, right? Like, it's just one of them. It could actually be seen as a side effect. You get documentation for free, right? If you have the spec, but hell no, like you can do many more things. Don't use it just for documentation. But when we release a new version like 3.0, all we show is documentation, then it's a contradictory message. You know what I'm going? So
yeah, I agree. Up until the point of including it as a dependency for us to release v3. That's where it stops for me. Because so I agree with you that we should go beyond just documentation. And I think we do that because we update the generator and we update the converter, we update the CLI, we have validation still. But as soon as you include generation templates as well into the discussion of what's needed for us to release v3, it becomes too much work. So to me, generation tools is something that is updated whenever the maintainers or contributors decide that it needs to be updated.
So you think that migrating just one template code generator, for
No.
instance, Java generator, something like that, is too much work. Like,
Yes.
I mean, it's already too much work. I know. But if we add like just one code generator or two, maybe like Node.js and Java, something like that, I think that makes a huge difference for the amount of work that it will add, right?
I completely agree. It's nice. And we should, when we are doing these spec works, offer some kind of enablement for the code owners of a template or code template or contributors to update those templates alongside all of the other stuff that that is going on. It's the same thing that I did with optimizer bundler offering to create a specific call just to discuss what's needed for them to support refree. And I will do the same with all of the templates that we have and give those code owners the possibility to have a public call to talk about what's needed for v3 to be supported. But it has to happen separately, because otherwise it would be too much work in the specification stuff. And it will be too much of a dependence. Like, we will never complete v3 if we don't set a hard like line between what needs to be changed and what doesn't. I agree. But it's the same discussion about, like, I want Modelina to be updated as well, but I don't see it as a requirement here. And that's why I'm saying, like, stick to the core tooling and let the users and the code owners and contributors and enable them to do the rest.
All right. So as per my understanding, like, since the very moment we release a release candidate of the parser supporting the new version 3, they're already enabled to do that, right?
Yes. Yeah, it depends on if you mean templates.
Yeah, for instance, template.
Then no, because we had somewhat of a blocker in order to figure out how we want to update it.
All right.
But
So
once that's done, now we can do the enablement like I did for the other tools that could be supported.
All right. So so I see two things then here. Like, I have the feeling that we have some kind of misalignment here, and it's related to what we want to achieve with the release of version 3, in my opinion. So there are two things that I'm seeing here. Correct me if I'm wrong. So one thing is our work, releasing our work. So we get it done. We feel that it's, you know, it's accomplished, it's done, it's out, everyone can use it, and everyone can use it. Everyone can start integrating with it and so on, creating tools, updating the tools and so on. And the other side is sorry, making an announcement. Marketing, you know, like social media, blah, 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 whatever, talks about it, people being able to use it, and demos, blah, 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 you know, like all the, let's say, communication part. I said marketing, but yeah, marketing might not be the best case, but communicating it, like communicating it loudly, that, hey, we have new version 3. I mean, probably the lack of alignment here will be that we're trying to do the two things at the same time, and that's pretty. It's too much. That's why it feels like too much. What other way to do it is we separate it. We decouple the two things. We release version 3. It's for our community, right, to use it. It's not that we're silent, but we don't promote it a lot, right? We're not making a lot of noise. We publish it on Twitter and so on. Yeah, cool, it's there. But it's not that we promote it a lot. And then we plan like a kind of communication campaign to announce it, just to make it, just so we get to all the users, let's say, as possible, and even get new users to come to Async API, to adopt Async API, because they see something cool they need, or because they just hear about it for the first time. So I don't know. That's my feeling so far. Maybe we should separate this two things.
But in my mind, that is what we've been trying to do while still respecting that we have tooling. Because this to me is like, this is the bare minimum in terms of tooling that we can, when we include a spec update, this is more or less the stuff that I would expect tooling to support. When I work with a new spec, if this is included, great. The
But-
rest is like where's the limitation?
It's the bare minimum for who?
For the user, in order to play around with a new specification and
But the thing is that if we announce, that's why I'm all the time like researching to the announcement thing and the communication and so on. Like if we announce that we have released version 3 and we also support tooling in the initiative and so on, they expect they will be able to use it fully with all tools. Now they're gonna find an ecosystem of tools that are like this one, no, this one not really. And this one maybe, no, this one not really, it's not migrated yet. So we're translating our problems to the users, and it's just like, then hell, like let's just hold it until everything is done. Everything is supporting version 3, right? Everything that we consider is going to reach a let's say a big percentage of the audience, right? That's why I was pointing all the time like Java and Node.js code generators and maybe Python, because it's like with this we cover the majority of the audience to be able to generate code. I don't care if .NET template is not generated. It's okay because .NET users will complain for sure, but .NET, in my opinion, .NET users are not even a big percentage of our user base. So
Actually, there are. But
there are, but there are. It's not the same as is a big percentage. That's my point, or a sensible percentage for consider it like required, right? Or we go all in and say all in, like all in. It's just
but then when
it's done, we release it, and so people will experience we'll have a nice user experience. Like, oh, version 3 is out. Cool, let me try it, and everything works, right? And I don't find a brittle ecosystem, and fragmented.
But then we need to change some core things when it comes to spec and release coordination and everything else, because then we cannot have a bare minimum for major versions. Like there shouldn't even be a release date in question. It's ready whenever all tools that the majority of users use are updated. So we shouldn't ever talk about a release date. We should never mention a release date. It's ready when it's ready. But the problem is, and that has been my understanding up until now, is that we are trying to get to a point where the very bare minimum of tooling supports v3 for us to release v3. So even though that we don't have the rest of the tooling there, or all of the tooling there, at least users can start using it in the most core way possible, which is documentation and whatever else there is. And then the hype around using v3 pushes changes in the rest of the libraries that hasn't updated yet to change, because right now there are no reason for maintainers to invest into updating for v3 because there's no users. It's only us. Right now, it's only us that pushing towards this. There's no users of v3. There's no users that say, "Oh, I want this library to be updated so I can use it." Like there's no hype around that.
That's my point. So we can create some of this hype, but we need to show what's possible, right? If I don't show that, hey, look, this code generator, you see a demo, a video of a demo of the Java code generator handling request reply, super cool in a super cool way and so on. It's like, damn, I want this for my .NET generator, right? For my .NET code or for my whatever other template, right? Is it supported now? Oh, can I get it? Let me help. Cool, but you need to show what's possible, because it's only a few of us who understand what version 3 is capable of. And we need to understand that, like, majority of our community doesn't even understand what V3 is bringing. Right?
Of
So
course not. It's not been released yet.
that's my point. So when you release it, you want to make sure that they understand what's possible, and you need to do demos like this. Like, so look, like this is, you can generate documentation, obviously, otherwise it's like it's not even worth it. But yeah, like let's generate some code, and let's demo it and so on. And now my code generator is not supporting it. I'm gonna request support for V3, right? Or I will even say those templates that we at the, like working full time on async KPI are maintaining, and I mean maintaining where we are the only maintainers, let's say, right? We could update them, because are we gonna wait for the code owners? We are the code owners, right? So
For some of the tools.
but yeah, but many of the templates, we are the only code owners, right? I mean, people from the Postman team are the only code owners. So for multiple of them, right? Or let's say
None of the Java.
maybe Maciek is there, but yeah, Maciek left. So yeah, but you know what I mean? So
We don't
trying
maintain Java, we don't maintain Python.
yeah,
Just to make it clear.
I know. I'm trying to see it from the point of view of the user. Like, I don't want to click on an announcement link somewhere on Twitter or somewhere. Oh, I'm gonna try it out, and then I see that the documentation is rendering, but when I want to generate code, I can't, because it's not supported. Think about it like users are not contributors. It's not the same thing. Users don't know how we organize ourselves. They see us as a whole, as a single thing, right? How we organize contribution and maintenance and so on, it's not their problem, right? So from the user's point of view, they want to use something, not to play. They want to use something in their company. They want to really use it, and it's not possible. So next thing they're gonna do is like, shit, I cannot use it. So I'm gonna stop reading. I do that all the time. Like, every time I see something and it's not working, I try and I try and I try and ask. I don't care, right? So
if you want to take that approach, and I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't, if you just leave that discussion for later, then I feel like we need a new change of, what's that? How can I frame that? I don't think I can be the one that pushes this over the finish line then. Then we need another release coordinator that pushes the effort for the, like, documentation, like all of those finishing details that isn't bare minimum for us to finish the spec. We need someone pushing that. That isn't me. If we want to go into that direction, we need that.
Of course.
Like, I can do all of the other stuff here, but when it comes to, like,
yeah, so don't take this as a Jonas, you gotta do this. Right? So
no, but it kind of is, but it isn't, but it kind of is. But it's also a little bit, so it comes down to me feeling responsible as a release coordinator, and we are piling on to that role right now, and that needs to be split out. That's what I'm saying. I'm not, if you just leave me out, let's talk about the role specifically. We need someone that isn't from A to B to the finish line. We need multiple people that pushes different things in different stages. because otherwise it's too much for a single role to do. If I wasn't here full time, no one would, like, you wouldn't be able to do this at all.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. So let's leverage those who are working full time, and please let's like, coordinator is not doer, right? So I like, don't feel the need, don't feel the responsibility that you have to complete all these items. You need to, I mean, if you want to take the role of coordinator, your role is to coordinate others, let's say, who are doing it. If no one is doing it, then cool, let's discuss that, why no one else is helping. But
It's fine. It's fine if there's not a release date.
There's
But
no,
there's
no-
all that we have already talked about release date. So as soon as we talk about release date, there's a, I understand that we have this now, but we
No,
still talk.
we stopped talking about release date like 3 months ago or 4 months ago, right? We said like, whenever this is complete, we release it.
Yeah, and then we said September, and then, but yeah,
No,
I get
no.
Yes.
Remember what I told you in the previous meeting? You saying too much, you want it in September. I was like, and I'm not quite sure this is gonna be ready in September.
Not if it was just this. That's was my point. If it was just the bare minimum of the work, like, then we could have done it.
Yeah,
But
so,
as soon as we want everything else, no,
again,
of course
like, don't feel the responsibility to do this yourself alone. Coordinate is one thing, do is another thing. So if at all, if you do want to take the role of the coordinator, your responsibility, if at all, is to ping the code owners of each repo, right? And tell them to do something. I know you did it, for instance, with me, with this in KPI React, and I said, like, I cannot do it. Okay, and you said, like, you want to give it a try. Okay, cool. If you didn't do it, I will have tried to find someone else to do it, right? Because it's my responsibility as a maintainer, right? So, but your responsibility is not to do all these items, to migrate all these things. That's why you're probably feeling overwhelmed, that we will never reach that line, right? And it's too much of work for you. So simplify that, please, for you, for your own mental health. Simplify that. It's not your responsibility at all. It's code owner's responsibility to make sure that it gets V3 support.
agree.
If at all, it's your responsibility to ping them and say, dude, it's about time to get V3 in your repo, right? That's it. Like, but nothing else. If you want to collaborate, of course you can collaborate, but it's not your responsibility. So yeah, and yeah, so we have a bunch of people working full time. Maybe we should reorganize for some time until we get this done, and then everyone can go back to whatever they were doing. So maybe we can, I mean, we have like, I think 8 people right now, or 9 people in the Postman team working full time on this.
So as we're
happy to stop development of the next version of Studio just to release this as soon as possible, right?
So as we're running a little bit late, to round this up, do we need to discuss which approach to take when it comes to V3? Or, like, do we want everything or majority? Or do we want bare minimum for V3 release? Do we need a separate discussion for this and a separate issue? Is it already decided? Like, where on the spectrum are we? I'm not talking to you, friend. I'm asking Lucas because I'm pretty sure I know your decision.
I know.
I mean, like, it's run that proposed templates. So like the most important, we need to know if we really want to have templates, have a list of the templates that we really want to have for 3.0 and discuss over it. But the only ones we have, maybe Node.js, that's it. All the others are beyond. If you want to have Java, Python, yeah, good luck. But maybe Salmon, he's a bit recently more active. But other companies, they don't pay that much attention to it. apparently they don't care much about the new specs. So you can have 8, you can have 16 people, but if you don't have someone to merge your pull request, that should not end up on the list, for example.
I mean, I'm assuming that if you create a pull request on the Java template, right, whoever is the code owner or are the code owners, they're going to merge it, right? They're going to approve it, and I'm assuming that this is going to happen. There should also be mechanisms if that's not happening, right? So if I am making a pull request and against one of the repos in the SNKP organization and the code owners are not responding, someone should take over. Maybe you, Lucas, maybe the TSE, I don't know.
We don't have any protocol for it.
Yeah,
and we shouldn't, like, if there's no maintainer and it's not active and there's no community that cares about it, you just archive it. That's the only protocol you can have.
I mean, but we care about it. It's just that we don't get the approval because the current code owner is not caring about it, but we do care about it because we made.
But you mean you're talking about single contribution or 2 contributions?
Yeah.
Will you take over maintainership of the template long term?
I think we should, or at least we should temporarily take over to find new maintainers, because what I'm assuming here, and I may be wrong, is that I mean, maybe not all the Java templates have users, right, or are being used actively, right? But if we have users, and let's say one of them, the most popular of them, if we have a lot of users using the Java generator, there's demand for this. It's just that there are not enough contributors, and there's not enough people willing to maintain it. So our job here, I will say, is to find maintainers, but not to archive it, right? So
find maintainers if if there are users, of course.
But
if
there are users. So what I'm assuming that for, I don't know which one is the best Java template here, but or the most complete or the most used. But if there are users and the maintainers are not responding, let's say we as in the TSCs will take over, or you as a director should take over and find and start, like, I don't know, like a process to find new maintainers temporarily and so on. So that's what I'm saying. So that shouldn't be a blocker. That's my point.
I mean, that's blocker if you want to have it a blocker for 3.0, because like
but we can
the whole
whenever you take over, you merge it, right?
But it's not but come on, like, we're, what the environment we work in, right? So it's not like takeover. What do you mean, like overnight takeover? Like there's
not overnight, but
it's a discussion we need to take. Like we always want to make sure that we can reach someone. So if we never did take over. It was always an open discussion. And always we're trying to always reach out to people over different channels. And once we're really sure that somebody is not responsive, then we can actually have a discussion about it. And I'm not saying it's not a place, but like it's not possible, but it's not a solution for the problem. So if you want to release 3.0 soon, I mean in few months.
But I never see, in a few months. I mean, if we start, let's say, migrating Java template today, we create a pull request, let's say in 2 weeks, right?
Come on, and who's gonna do it?
Imagine, I don't know. I'm just
no, but that's the thing. I'm not able to really imagine it. It's like it's not.
I can find Java people happy to contribute, so that's not a problem to contribute, but not to maintain. So that's my point. I can do it. I can do it because I'm actually doing it now, right now, as we speak. So and I'm doing it for the Java parser and for the Spring integrations that I want to bring at some point. So so my point is that if we manage to find someone that just migrates, maybe I don't know, maybe even if it's without request reply support, but at least that it works with version 3, right? This could be done. Let's say we could find people to do that. I can actually do it myself because it's not Java, it's actually Node.js work. But the thing is that if in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, let's say, we have a pull request ready, and we wait, let's say, 2 months for someone to review it and approve it, or review it, let's say, I'm pretty sure that in 2 months or in 3 months, because it's 4 weeks plus 2 months, in 3 months, we will still not be done with the pending work there. So we're still on time. We're still on time to do this kind of process without, you know, without having without being a blocker or a complete blocker, right? Because other work is still pending anyway. My feeling is that this is going to still take like 2 or 3 months.
The only big blocker there is React component. The rest is simple stuff to finish, as far as I understand, except of docs, because I don't think you have docs there on the list, and we need them.
That's another thing. Docs probably should be there, right?
But only the basic ones again.
Yeah, okay. So
It depends on who you ask, Lucas. we established that now. It depends. I'm gonna create an issue just for discussing.
yeah, I think it's
it's not complete.
Bare
And then I'm
minimum
gonna-
must be there. That's not an option.
we just need to define what's bare minimum. What bare minimum?
What we
means.
have there, basically.
For me,
We
that's
migrated.
for me.
For Fran, that's not enough.
That's not.
That's
enough.
the whole that's the whole discussion.
That
Yeah.
will, that will
It's
lead
like-
users to a fragmented ecosystem. They will come to try a new async KPI v3. They can do everything cool, like documentation and everything cool. They're gonna generate code, and it doesn't work. And probably their main
But
use
we're
case.
talking about docs, not code now.
Yeah. No, I mean but the bare minimum is not included in the code generators right now. That's why. So that's what I'm saying. Independently, even if it's just Node.js template, I don't care, whatever. But at least one, right? So that we are able to showcase what's capable, what the new spec is capable of.
All right, so the too long didn't read because we are 11 minutes past is we are in conflicts regarding what defines finished with v3 and when it should be released, because there's basically 2 approaches to this, and we are standing on 2 opposite sides right now, so we need to discuss it further. Yeah, that's basically it.
That's it. I don't want to be a blocker myself. So that is just an opinion. That is just my opinion. If the rest of you agree, let's say, or let's say majority or all of you, I don't know, whatever, agree that now code generators should not be there, that's too much, I'm happy to give my thumbs up with this, with the release, and I don't want to be a blocker. It's just an opinion. It's not a strong opinion. It's just that I've seen it in the past, and I've seen different kinds of releases. Like the most recent, for instance, has been the Astro library, front-end library, right? Which, by the way, they released the version 3, which is a nice coincidence. So the Astro library recently, they made a release, and to me, it was like beautifully coordinated, right? Everything, the announcement, everything, like the social media work, everything. And you go there, you want to use this tool, you want to generate a template. It's there for you to try it. The documentation is there, everything is there. You can try it. Maybe if there was a third party, like another library from the community that works with Astro, that one probably is not integrating well because they didn't update it. Cool, but at least the ones that they are maintaining, the ones that are under the Astro GitHub organization, they all work, right? They all work, and it hasn't been released until it all works. So that's my point, or at least it hasn't been announced. Maybe it was released. I don't know. I didn't check so close. So that's my point. And the other kind of experience is that you go there and you find a brittle ecosystem and you as a user, I'm a user. I don't even care about async KPI. It's just another tool that I'm using. I have thousands of tools in my toolbox, right? Every day. Async KPI is just another one. I don't want to be understanding why this one is migrated or it's not, right? I just want to use it. And if I don't find it useful, I'm going to drop it, right? So I want to avoid this. That's my point.
But you will always have a brittle ecosystem. You will always have a platform that doesn't support v3 yet. You will always have.
But that's why I made this point, this differentiation. Like whatever was in the Astro GitHub organization was migrated. Whatever else it's outside the their GitHub organization, the rest of the ecosystem, of course, they cannot control it. So the rest was not migrated. But that's something that you can expect. But as a user, what I expect if you release a new version is that all the tools, everything that you're offering under your organization, it's working, right?
I agree. If you have let's say that every maintainer that we have are paid to be there and to update their repository.
But as a user,
then I
don't
agree.
Care. As a user, I don't care how you.
But it's open source. Like I don't care about what you as a user think. Then you think like you have a scattered mindset about open source. Then like it's completely wrong. That's not how open source works. If people are not paid to be there, like we are fortunate enough that we are the exception here.
I get what you say.
Or some repositories, but we cannot force, let's say, people from Solus that has Java template. We cannot force those maintainers to prioritize working on Spec 3 just because they're under our organization, like under async API. Like we cannot force any maintainers to prioritize specific things. It's up to them because it's open source. If async API paid those maintainers, that would be a different story. Then we can start prioritizing stuff, etc. But as long as it's open source and it's unpaid, majority of it, you cannot, like there's no requirements, there's no guarantee that anything works. Like you have none.
Or maybe it's that you release very early.
No,
have waited a little bit more.
It's the same if you encounter a bug. As long as it's open source, the maintainers are not required to fix it. Like that entire mindset is just, in my opinion, wrong when it comes to open source. And no matter what we do, it will never be enough for those users to not encounter some kind of fractured ecosystem. I mean, it doesn't matter what we do.
It's okay if you find some kind of fracture, like a little thing here and there. But this is a big one, right? Like this is like you guys are promoting a new version, a whole new version of the spec, and let's say half of the tools are not migrated. The tools that you maintain, right? So that you, I mean, like from their perspective, saying like the tools that you as a whole are maintaining, right, are not even migrated. So why do you release version 3 then? From their perspective, they are not in a rush to get version 3. Nobody is like, hell yeah, release version 3 as soon as possible. Like, I mean, nobody. There's for sure there will be people, but the majority are not even aware that we're gonna release version 3. So then, isn't it better if we just wait until everything we define what everything means here, right? Or the majority at least, whatever. We release it and make and offer a consistent user experience, because the only thing that it's making as let's say accelerate this is that we are tired already because we've been working on version 3 for too long, right?
Yeah, okay.
That's
definitely a point. Yeah.
That's the only thing. We are tired of version 3. We just want to release it as soon as possible. So it's check, done, right? But it's not done. That's my point, right? We're just finding excuses to mark it as done, but it's not done.
Well, that's your assumption that it's the main.
Well, yeah, that's my assumption. Yeah, exactly. But what I mean, but that's why I'm saying like, this is my opinion. I'm not going to block. That's why I was saying like, I don't want to block it. I just want to offer my point of view, right? My point of view. And I think it's the point of view of many, specifically those who are not contributing or close to our community, right, of contributors, not community of users, of course. They will be like, well, yeah, really cool, but cannot use it. right? And now I need to learn about how you structure your organization, which is like it's too much, it's too much.
I want to give you a little bit of different thought experiment. So instead of thinking about the users, think of the maintainers we have.
I do every day. That's why.
So in terms of Spec free release and having everything up to date, because if you're with the minds, like, why would a maintainer that isn't paid to maintain a repository focus on something that has no users, that has no benefit for the repository in itself, at least
Even
not now?
it might have users, but even if it has a lot of users, why would he?
Yeah. Why not fix a bug instead in the template and spend some time there instead of focusing on next?
Then why don't we, the ones who are getting paid to work on this full time, don't we contribute to these repos?
And that's the second part. And that's the second part of my thought experiment here. That is that you put every responsibility of this release on those that work full time, which can be a hell of a lot of responsibility for those people that might even break some. So if you don't do open source in the way that things take time and they are updated whenever there are enough reason to do things, then you're gonna, like, it has more cost than you probably think about.
So yeah, I understand what you mean, and that's definitely a concern, of course. But the thing is that it still doesn't. I'm not completely sold. I understand what you mean. It's just that then just consider what I said before. Like, then let's just delay the release until everything is done, whenever they have time.
Sure, but that's
whenever they have. Everyone will migrate their own repo whenever they have time. I mean, not all the repos, right? Not all the repos. We define what's the bare minimum here, and once it's migrated, then we release version 3.
So that means you will block spec progression until everyone has updated.
For a major version, I think it makes sense. For a major version like this.
But you wouldn't do a 2.7 release of the spec if you have a major release right around the corner. And you can't even say that. So let's say, for example, that someone wants something in the spec, then all of a sudden it can take 2 years before that specific feature can be included, because it takes 2 years for all tools to be upgraded.
Because we decided to block version 2, but then let's continue version 2 until we have version 3 ready.
But it doesn't make sense.
Not to me.
No, you're like, you're satisfying a part of the community that is expecting, and I definitely do not prefer that part of the community that is expecting that automatically we migrate everything, and they will be happy because in 2 years they will have everything, like in Astro, super nice. But you're discriminating the contributors, the companies that were helping, let's say with Protobuf, or some others, to rush to make sure that 3.0 is ready. And they have, like, they contributed features in the spec. They made all the possible effort to make sure that the basic tools are migrated, and they would like to use 3.0, but no, they have to wait because we want to wait for happy.
So for those companies that you mentioned, one thing that they could be doing then is to sponsor that migration of the pending tools. If it's so important for them, right? I mean, it's just a different point of view. I just wanted to bring it in.
But it's completely against how we set up organization. Like, we're not Astro. It's not Astro. It's us and API, which is part of Linux Foundation. It's not Astro that is planning to probably, or already actually. They had a different reason, right? They released 3.0 and they have their offering to host Astro, and they're building basically business on top of it. They have a lot of money.
I know what they're doing. It's just that I just mentioned Astro because in my user experience, my developer experience when trying it was like super cool. I want this for Async API if possible. How can we bring it?
You won't unless we rebuild everything. But
pay maintainers.
But now you cannot do it.
How do we pay the maintainers then?
that each major release of the spec, we reserve X amount of budget in the contributors and then give it out
Okay.
for update, and like that's
Yeah.
an approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. Yeah. What I mean, I just
for
want
sure.
this user experience. I'm just trying to find a way to have this development experience.
I get it, because I want it as well. Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree that when I
I
use,
don't
for
want to
example,
discriminate the non-pet
No,
maintainers. That's why I'm saying like I have them in my mind all the time. I just don't think that not being paid to maintain something should be a blocker from our point of view, because we're getting money, we have contact with companies happy to sponsor some work, so maybe we should be doing that kind of work then, trying to find these people happy to pay for this remaining work, or to assign people to do the migration. I know it's easier said than done, and I know, and I'm sorry, Lucas, because you're on that role now.
No,
And,
but I'm not the only one in the role, because it's one thing is to find money, the other is
Yeah.
find people on board.
But you are the
support
main
them.
person in the role now doing that. Like, you're not probably the only person knocking doors. Like, hey, we want a company to donate.
Yeah, but again, the thing is, what you're not taking into account, that it's not only money. It's not just money. You actually have to have someone who can take the money and do the job. And that's not always the case. You have templates where there are employees of some other companies, and they will not, it's not a matter of money, it's a matter of the company. And they they're not interested unless you pay really good money. Like, there are people from states and from other countries. Like, it's much more complex than really getting money. Like,
but that was Fran's point before when he talked about it shouldn't ever be the case that a repository with an async API cannot have its pull request merged because a company decide that they don't want that to happen. Like, there should be no blockers in open source. If a user wants, unless it's a very, very specific, complete rewrite or something else that means that the maintainers can't perform their job again, it's like there should be no blockers in open source. Otherwise, at least in my mind, it shouldn't happen under async API regime.
Yeah, maybe it will be outside the async API organization in this case.
Again, it's not that trivial to define it this way. First thing, request reply, very needed feature, but there are many people out there that hate that feature in event-driven architectures, that it's anti-pattern. Now, but yeah, you're nodding head, but there might be a maintainer of the code generator that refuses support request reply. And what does it mean that we have to kick them out of the organization? Why?
I think, well, we haven't defined it, but I think the compromise here is that if you have something in the organization, you should be supporting the spec as much as possible.
The compromise is if you want it and maintainer doesn't want it, you fork it.
Shit. So then, and if the maintainer decides that they don't want to use, okay, we're gonna drop async API support. We're gonna support GraphQL subscriptions on this template.
Actually, I think that's
you should be addressing async API, because that's why you are an async API organization, right? Otherwise,
their maintainers, it's their decision. If there's misagreement or not.
Now that doesn't make sense, Lucas.
No, that makes sense, because but you're disturbing me and you're not letting me finish. That's not how open source works. That's not how it should work. That's not the fact that we like request reply doesn't let us enforce maintainer of a tool to support it. So if he doesn't want to support it or she doesn't want to support it, they don't have to support it. If there's a demand from the community to have the support, let them work on the support. Let them fork the repo. Let have voting to have competing template or whatever. And people will move on their own. Okay. But forcing, then having some takeover, some shitty situations, no, that should never take place.
Yeah, okay. Forcing is not probably the right way. I get it. Thing is that we should force it that this template has request reply support, maybe on a fork, as you said. You have a competing fork, cool, enough. The thing is that whatever works. I don't care if it's forcing or not forcing or forking, whatever. But even if it's forking, like competing fork, as you said, then it's not a blocker. So problem solved. So that's so there's no blocker. So we all agree. So the discussion was about having blockers. There's no blockers.
There are, but there are different ways there are different things we're discussing here. For 3.0, that specific reason for 3.0, we should not consider migrating all the tools. Because this whole, like, it's because like now you agree, but then it's contradicting what you want to achieve, because like let's say we don't migrate bundler, and there will be a command popping up to the users like you cannot bundle.
That's why I said majority of tools, not all of them. That's why I said like even 2 code generators, not all of them. I said in the beginning, like, I don't care if it's just 1 or 2 or 3 code generators, not all of them. Just to show, I want to show kids what's capable. So the rest of the of the templates, of the rest of the community using the other templates which are not migrated, kind of like feel the need of migrating it, because it's like, oh, cool, this is really cool. I want it in my language, in my template. So that's my point. We don't need to migrate everything. If bundler is not migrated, and bundler then, or not this way around. So the other way around. So if we don't want to have bundler in the bare minimum, then bundler is not migrated. We don't need to migrate everything. Obviously, ideally, we should migrate everything. Ideally, but that's a very idealistic view. So we just migrate, let's say per sections of, or per features of what you can do with the spec, render docs, generate code, whatever you want to call it with Glee, something like Glee, something like that, whatever. Even Glee, I'm leaving it out. We have code generators, so we can already demo it. Whatever else, configuring some kind of system, whatever, but or at the very least, this tool, right? This documentation and code generation, I will have them in the bare minimum, but we don't have any code generator in the bare minimum. We don't have to migrate everything. Of course not, but that will be a hell of a lot of work, and work of knocking a lot of doors. Please migrate this. We don't have to.
I think it like a lot of this also comes down to we have nothing within our organization that defines what's a protocol when something like this happens. Because there's no requirements for having a repository and maintaining a repository within async API organization. Like we have none. There's no requirement that states anywhere that you need to update your tools to support the latest spec, for example, even though that should probably be the case. Yeah. Like it's more like a good of faith in some sense that we expected kind of that should happen. But nowhere is it stated that a maintainer can't block that progress.
Yeah, we should define.
Even though we should probably have
that. Probably, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Well, but what I said is like, if they don't want to merge this kind of improvement, version 3, request reply, whatever, if they don't agree with something, it's still not a blocker because we can fork it, and that's it. As Lucas said, we fork it, we host it as a fork of that template, and inside we fork it. I mean, we copy and paste it in another repo, another name under the organization, and that's it. And let people choose, and let people choose which one they prefer. And they, I mean, yeah, why not? And that's a very open source way, right? If you don't agree with the maintainers, fork it and maintain it yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Okay, guys, because it's 30 minutes past and I'm alone without wife, have to take care of kids. So
are you sure they're still alive?
And we're anyway, no, because I see one of them.
Okay.
And we anyway are now talking about stuff that is like artificial and might never happen. Going back to what you asked Jonas 30 minutes ago about like what's next. So I think this is still the same what I said, like Fran, you have to write in this issue that Jonas have with what's the scope. Just write what should be added, and we need to discuss over it. That's
and I'm gonna change like the structure of the issue so it includes specific points that I assumed would be the bare minimum for what is required as a blocker.
Yeah.
And then we discuss further what needs to be included, what needs to be removed, etc., and then fixate on that. And then I'm gonna make an announcement on Slack as well to make sure that, because I've talked about release date, etc., I'm gonna make it clear that at least until now we have no expectation of date when V3 is out. Like there's nothing that states that it's next month, this month, half a year. It's done when it's done, and then we need to figure out what else we're gonna do.
Yeah. After that, I mean, let's leave it out because it's too late today. But after that, I would also like to bring how to plan the announcement. Let's say, or like, what are we going to do to announce this and to communicate this, basically. But yeah, that's another thing. So, yeah.
I'm probably gonna see if I can split off the release coordination stuff. So I'm being cut off when it comes like after all of the tools, everything that's release coordination in terms of blog posts, all of that stuff. I actually don't care. So I'm not the guy that should be in charge of that. So I'm gonna make something there to for us to discuss it.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Thanks, folks. And sorry it was overtime. Well,
Bye.
bye bye.